Hi everyone, Saturday the 18th of November 20... What am I talking about? It's Saturday 18th of February 2022. It's not my birthday yet. Hi everyone, Angus Campbell here. So hot on the heels of stable plans for this year recently published. First thing we're going to do is just give the B25SS a light service. It's, I say, Saturday today. There's a classic vehicle meet locally tomorrow that I'm hoping to ride this to, but I'm not sure whether I'm going to get it done in time. But all I want to do is on the back of doing a few tidy up jobs on this after we received it in the autumn, then I just want to do really a bit of an oil change and just check the points. That's all. And also try and sort that out. What's happening is there's obviously an oil leak somewhere underneath, which is the oil's being captured in the on the bash plate and dripping out on this side. The previous owner thinks he knows what it was and it should be easy enough to fix, but we've got to take the bash plate off anyway so we can actually just check the sump as well. Now, oil changes on this are a bit more involved, so let me take you over to the manual and show you the intricacies of the oil tanking frame. So there we are in the workshop manual. So you've got the main spine at the top here, handle which holds oil, and also the front down tube holds oil as well. So oil is fed from a union underneath a gauze filter at the bottom here to the engine, and returns at the back through a full flow oil filter in a canister up to the top here and to the steering head. Now, there's been lots written about this as to the fact that oil at the back of the main spine isn't going to circulate as well, and it probably doesn't, but I presume when you're riding, etc., then there will be some mixing of that oil. So why it was designed like that, I have no idea. I'm no engineer. But anyway, the point is that we've effectively got 3 drain points. We've got to take this union off here to clean that gauze and drain the down tube. We've got the oil filter to change. You can clean that in petrol, but I've got a new one. So we'll put that in, the full flow oil filter, and then you've got to drain it at the back here, because as we're saying, just taking that out isn't going to drain this lot here. So you've got to plug there, so you've got to take a side panel out to do that. But first of all, let's get back to just getting that bash plate off, and that should be easy enough to do. Undo the nuts on the bottom engine mounting stud, just loosen them off because the bash plate is slotted at the back there. Undo its 2 mounting bolts at the front and it should pull forward that way then. And we'll have a look underneath and see what on earth's going on there. Okie doke, first job. Right, 2 minutes later, bash plate off. Looks a bit like engine oil, me to that. The front 2 mounting bolts are really short and actually have no washers on. I'll just check that's correct, because they don't look very secure. They were done up tight, but if the bottom of the engine does get a good bash when you're going, sort of green laning or whatever, would that hold very much? But anyway, that's as it was. And just while we're here, there's your little full flow oil filter, which are pretty readily available. So let's go and have a look underneath that motor and see what's causing it to leak a bit. As I say, it's been stood for probably now nearly 3 months, so there's not much come out of it. Just one of those annoying things which I hate. Well, there's a few things to note under here. This is very tight here, and I've got a funny feeling that tube is cracked. The oil line is cracked a bit, the rubber tubing, so we might have to replace that. Doesn't seem to be anything coming out here, but that's obviously a new fabricated union at some point. Bit of oil around the sump plate with nothing much. Some just here, which means it might have sumped his oil, but we'll soon find out. Excuse me, but where it's dripping from is here on that oil line again. So we'll check that out. I think we're going to have to replace that. And also, somebody's obviously tapped the, I think that's the gearbox drain, and put a little drain plug in there, but it doesn't look to be leaking. Not too bad, just a bit of accumulated oil. And maybe the problem we've got is just it sumping its oil as always, but we'll soon find out once we get that sump plate off. I've just loosened the sump plate and there's the oil flowing out of it, so it's sumped oil. That might explain why it's weeping a bit out of the bottom cases. These do have an anti-drain valve in them, but like almost all of them that I've come across in any model, the triples, the twins and the singles, they very rarely work well. Anyway, let's get this lot drained off, then we'll move on to the other drains. The gearbox obviously is a separate reservoir for EP90 oil, and also on these, the primary case is a separate reservoir as well for sort of straight 30 type, or normally, or you can use ATF. So we've got all these different reservoirs, and not forgetting the rear plug on the, and the front plug on the frame to drain as well. So it's a bit involved. So I've taken the oil feed union off what will be the gauze filter nut at the bottom of the front down tube. So that means now we can get a socket on this to get that out and just clean that gauze filter. So it's emptied the front tube, but it hasn't emptied the top spline, so we've got to do that next via the plug at the back of the top spine. So let's get this out first and see what this looks like anyway. Well, it's looking a bit sludgy. Yeah, so it's ready for a change, I think. The oil itself doesn't look too bad. It's a bit dark, but when you put your finger in it and test it, etc., you can still see the original green tinge. So I think it's Duckham's or something like that was used, or some sort of classic oil. But that definitely needs a cleaning in petrol. One thing I've also noticed actually with this and other unions, etc., drain plugs and things on the bike, there's no fibre washers on them, and I'm sure they're supposed to have. So let's dig the parts book out as well and check that once we've got everything draining down. But the next thing then is the oil filter canister, which lives just in there. You can just see the top of it there. And if I test my joints and get prone, there it is. So should be able to just spin that off. Although I notice that looks like a drain plug rather than a hexagon to enable you to unscrew the bowl. Anyway, we'll get something underneath that and unscrew that, and then we'll get a good view of how filthy that is in there. Oh well, I'm a bit more heartened by this. The oil in here was quite clean. Filter's obviously not that old, but I will change it anyway, just for peace of mind. The oil filter housing is clean. I've wiped it out, and yeah, I wasn't thinking this, if you like, is a bolt that goes through the center of the filter to hold the housing on. And yeah, there's no washer on the end of this, but the end of the housing has a rubber insert. I think you can just about see that black inner ring, not the outer one, the inner ring. So that works quite well. So that's good news. So that's easy enough to sort out. Right, next then, we remove one of the side panels. I think it's the left-hand panel, to get to the sorry, just having a look round to get to the drain plug at the back of the spine, top spine frame. Let's just have a look in the manual. What does it say? Necessary to remove the right side panel. That's right, which is the other side to the battery. Right, let's do that then. Right, before you say I'm wrong, the right hand panel is the side of the battery, because the other side is the air filter which gets in the way. And sorry about the light, we seem to be getting a bit of a reflection here. There's the drain plug there, and that's better. The recommendation is obviously try and get a channel or something made out of cardboard or something underneath that to direct the oil out. Cross the silence here and down into there. So let's make something up and get that back end drained off. There we go, draining away, but looking a bit... No, it's not too bad. Bit of a slow drain, but anyway, works pretty well. There we go, a cardboard channel, patented. Right, that's that side sorted out. Now, certainly at this end, the drain plug did correctly have a fibre washer on it, so that was dry, which is great. So we need to make sure we do that with some of the other plugs, I think. Right, next we'll let that drain away. And in the meantime, we'll clean up the gauze filter on the feed side at the bottom of the down tube. Right, there's the sump plate. There was a bit of a film of sludge in the bottom of that, but again, the oil was pretty clean. So I'm not sure how long ago that was cleaned out. The filter, the gauze filter for the sump was fine. I've just given that a light clean in petrol. Gaskets were good. They had a couple of gaskets, one on either side of the filter, which is correct. But the other thing I've just noticed with respect to the full flow oil filter pan is this metal supporting plate needs to go on the underside of the filter, and I nearly chucked that away with the old filter. So now these filters have the same size hole at each end, but I think the originals had a smaller hole at the end that sits on the bottom. But anyway, it goes on there, and then that slides into the bowl that way, I believe, but I need to check that in the parts book. The only other thing of note is the sump plate was held on by a bit of a mishmash, really. So I think some new nuts are in order if I've got some in stock. Those three are actually correct, but not in very good condition. That one is wrong, and it was a bit tight getting off, so I'm not sure whether that's slightly the wrong thread that's been forced onto the stud. But let's see if we can sort out some new ones. Right, everyone, just as I'm beavering away, here's another observation. I was just looking into securing a fibre washer for the down tube gauze filter housing, the screw on, and indeed it does show washers in the workshop manual, but as you can see they show a banjo fitting to the oil pipe, whereas what we've got is what you'd see normally on some of the other models, i.e. the twins and triples. We've got a screw-in gauze filter, but a pipe union on the end of it, so that's different. Anyway, we'll put a washer on it. The gauze is cleaned up really well. It's nice and clean. We'll just tidy up all this rust here. We'll just give that a bit of a wire wool treatment, and we'll get that back in. That's a bit better. It's not perfect, but it's indicative of all the fittings and certain items on the bike where it's displaying pitting, etc., which seems to indicate before a previous owner Tried to do a cost-effective restoration of this. It must have been in a hell of a state. This engine cases, etc., are all pitted like that, so it doesn't matter whether it's steel or aluminium or anything, it's all been pitted. But anyway, that's a bit better. So we'll just fit that up, and then we'll get a bit of aluminium paint on that, just to try and keep it clean. Right, this is the primary drive drain that you can see there, and the level plug. The drain is leaking, and looks to me as though, again, it hasn't got a fibre washer on it. But anyway, let's get this drained off. I've got Castrolite or Castrol Straight 30 in stock that'll go in here. I have realised that I haven't got any gear oil in stock, but I've checked the level on the dipstick there. You can just see it, which you unscrew at the back there, and the oil is up to the right level in the gearbox, and it's absolutely spotlessly clean. So I'll leave that for now, but I'll need to get some in stock to do a quick change. But anyway, let's carry on with this and see what we get out of it. Good news, there's oil in it, and it is different oil too, so I would imagine it's slightly thinner. It's not the same that was in the main engine oil tank anyway. The little drain plug did have a washer on it, but it's the head's a little bit rounded, but it does have a washer. So we'll see if we can just tighten that up a little bit better with a socket, but not too much as to strip the thread. But it is, I would imagine, UNC. Right, we'll get that drained off, and then we'll fill it. I'm pretty sure that's the drain, level screw there. We're just checking the manual, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. And we'll get that sorted out. Right, we're just about there. So the down tube gauze and union are back on. Gauze with a fibre washer. The rear plug under the seat is back in with its fibre washer. The oil filter canister is back on in there with a new oil filter, and we've changed the oil in the primary chain case. I say, leaving the gearbox oil for now. I haven't got any in stock, but it looks good and it's up to the mark, so that's fine. So now we've just got to fill with 6 pints of oil, which should take it up to the level mark on the dipstick. But then we need to kick it through to fill the oil filter canister, etc., and get it returning, which is I normally like to do before I start it up. I mean, they do recommend putting a bit of oil in the sump through the rocker box cover just here, I think. But I'll take the plug out and kick it over a few times and check a few other things as well. So yeah, 6 pints into there, and we'll take it from there. Just while we're filling it with oil, this is what the underside looks like now, tidied up a bit, and also new nuts on the sorry, it's not, there we go, it's not focusing very well. New nuts on the sump plate. This stud's a little bit proud, that one, but I don't want to force it, and the nut goes on fine and tightens up. So yeah, pleased with that. Right, let's plough on with filling. I think some of you that maybe know these machines better than I do might be screaming at me saying it ain't 6 pint capacity in the main spine frame. It's 4 pints, and you can see it there, but there's the indentation in the dipstick, which is at its maximum oil level. If I can get this back in there, which I can't. There we go. Yeah, it's right to the top. Now, what I'll do is do a lot of kicking over on this to get the oil circulating, but also we need to fill up on the return side, which isn't too bad, the return side, we need to fill up the oil canister around the full flow oil filter. So that's the next job. Plug out and give her a good few kicks. Right, I've given a good few kicks. I haven't checked oil pressure or anything like that just yet. I just wanted to get some oil circulating around, and I'm just going to leave it to stand now, just to see if we've got any leaks from the feed side, especially, because I'm still not too sure about this union here. Seems to be okay at the moment. Sorry, it's a bit dark down there. But we'll leave it a while, come back, give it some more kicks, turn it on and see if we're getting oil pressure under kicking, and then we'll know the feed's getting through. And then we'll just make sure she's not dropped or there's nothing untoward going on from anything we've disturbed, and then we can put the bash plate back on. Right, back an hour later, kicked it over a few more times. I'm pretty sure that we're getting oil around the crank now and beginning to return. So a quick test is whether it manages to pump up its oil pressure. So ignition on. Oh, there you go. Oil pressure warning light out straight away. I mean, it is new oil, and it's probably a little bit thicker than it had in it. I use Penrite oil for classic vehicles, which has a fantastic reputation. Quite a wide range of viscosity as well, depending upon temperatures and stuff. And it is supposed to be good for maintaining oil pressure, which is why I started using it in the A70, etc. Yeah, there you go. Happy with that. Battery's all good. I did charge it up before I went away. Yep, fantastic. Right, so it's now Saturday evening. So it looks as though we're going to be all set for a run out tomorrow morning to the local monthly classic vehicle meet. All I've got to do is put the bash plate on, top it up with petrol, and just check around again, just check the tyre pressures too, although I'm pretty confident they're going to be all right. And as I say, I'll put on the chest harness for the GoPro, get that charged up now and try and get some shots on the road so you can hear it running, because I don't think I've done that yet with this bike, and hopefully demonstrate how quiet it is unless I've messed it all up. Right, on we go. Right, everybody, next morning, and there's one little tiny fresh drop under there. There it is. But other than that, not too bad. So I fueled her up, and we'll start her up now, and then we'll get the torch in the hole, make sure the oil's returning once the full flow oil canister is filled up. But we know we've got good oil pressure, so let's fire her up. Okay, all's returning fine. I was just trying to do a bit of carb tuning there because it didn't tick over when I took it out in the autumn, and it's struggling a bit now. So I think there's a bit of tuning to do on that front, but other than that, it starts well and it runs pretty well. So we'll just top the oil up now, and we'll get on the way to the classic vehicle meet this morning. See how she runs. Bash plate back on. That took a bit of doing, but needed a little bit of bending and twisting a bit. But it's on okay now. All nipped up, all ready to go. Right, let's go for a ride. Okay, we made it okay. It's only about, it's only a few miles, 6 or 7 miles or so, but it's a little bit of a shakedown. It doesn't appear to be peeing oil out anywhere just yet, so I think we're all good. And here we are at the classic vehicle meet, which meets at Airfield Business Park just outside Market Harbour, third Sunday of every month. So we'll stay here for an hour or so and mosey around, cup of tea, and then we'll do a bit of bimbling back home. About an hour later, it's all a bit modern in here, but there we go, there's B31 I think that's joined us, so a couple of BSAs here holding the fort, flying the flag. Okay, back home after a 20-mile round trip on the way home through the villages, getting some confidence in it now, and all good. It's really running very well. I can't get it to tick over, so I need to look at the carb tuning a bit. It's either racing or it won't tick over at all. And the pilot air screw is only out just over half a turn, and I don't think that's quite right really, but it is running really well. It rolls off on the the overrun on throttle very, very smooth. The engine's very smooth, it's very peppy, it's very quiet. The handling on the bike is absolutely superb. You can flick it around with absolute confidence and it really holds its line. Obviously the front brake on this, even if it wasn't very efficient, is man enough for the job, but it's very progressive. So it's absolutely really fun to ride. So I've had a very enjoyable morning out. Everything looks good at the moment on the oil front, so I've cleaned up the floor there, stood it there, and we'll leave it overnight and see if we get any coming out anywhere, but very pleased with it. As it's had a good run, you'd have thought the frame, that front down tube is warm. Yeah, that is warm, so the oil's been getting nice and warm, but the top tube, yeah, there's a little bit of heat in it, not much. Engine is really good and hot, and as I was getting more confident with it, I did rev it a little bit just to test it out, but yep, seems all good. And here's a photo of I took while I was out over at a village called Welham, and I'll submit that to see if the editor at the BSA Owners Club Star magazine wants to put that on the front cover. Sort of a rustic country pick in East Leicestershire. Right, we'll leave it there for now, but we'll do some more riding on this as a regular for a while. I might get over to the BSA Owners Club meeting in the next week or so, or in the next couple of weeks on this, and that'll be more of a 50-mile round trip, which will be a bit of a test. Or I might decide just to do a bit more sort of local testing first. But yeah, getting some confidence in it. It started first kick from hot, from cold it takes 2 or 3 jabs just with a bit of a tickle. There is no choke on it. But yeah, very, very impressed with it. They've got a reputation of being a bit fragile, so we'll have to see. Right, we'll leave it there. Next up, there's going to be the Fury gearbox behind it. But for now, I'll say thanks very much for watching. Thanks for any interest, comments and subscriptions. And I'll see you all again soon. Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.